Use this as a backdrop to talk about the problems of carbon-14 dating. So here are the methods of dating archaeological specimens. These are talking about absolute dating. So carbon-14 does break down absolutely in a lab. So this is how the radioactive carbon decays. So after 17,190 years, there's only 12.5% of the carbon-14. So an organism is eating stuff, and it dies, and when it dies, it's basically frozen the carbon-14 in its body, so it starts decaying into nitrogen-14. Now there's another form of carbon, another isotope to carbon that's actually a better way to date, but they don't use it. They run with the carbon-14. Don't know why, they just do it. But there's some inherent problems with this, so I want to use this as a backdrop as I'm talking about it. So I recently did some work in a lab helping them carbon date, prepare the samples to go to a mass spectrometer. The best lab that does the dating is in Florida. So normally this is how it works. You get your sample. You have to tell them a ballpark figure of what you think the date of the sample is right off the bat. Then you have to remove the debris around the sample. You have to shave it down, and then normally it's a 3-bath acid, alkaline, acid bath. Now you have to figure out the soil that you found this in to figure out which one, like different soils are acidic as opposed to, so you want to pull that out of there. So what you do is you get that sample down to as pure as you can, and then you send it off to the lab in Florida. So then they take it to a mass spectrometer, and this is how they do it. They burn it. They turn it into CO2. The CO2 is then turned into graphite. The graphite is then stuck into a mass spectrometer, and they get you one of these numbers. Now, where are the problems? The problems are in the real world. So this is the real world. In the real world, you have water moving around. You have things happening. One good example of this is campaign buttons 30 or 40 years ago. A lot of them were made out of wood instead of metal. 50 years ago, they were made out of wood instead of metal. And just to see what would happen, they took a I like Ike button and they sent it in to be carbon dated. Now Ike was president up until 1960. So let's say it was made for his last campaign run or a little bit afterwards. Maybe somebody just liked an I like Ike button. Anyway, they set it in to be radiocarbon dated, and it tested at 8,000 years old. So there isn't an absolute dating. There's water moving around that washes salts around. Another example I want to give, uranium salts also get washed around. So when water moves around, it can move stuff. So I can't tell you exactly where this happened. I was involved with it, but for security reasons. But they were missing. They dug up a bunch of uranium, and it wasn't enriched, but they were going to save it for enriching later. So they put it at a nuclear reactor site, and they dug a hole, and they put all these many tons of uranium just right next to this secured facility. Well, they noticed about 15 years later that 25% of it was missing, and it was missing. So they brought some outside the box thinkers such as myself, and I figured out, I was the only one that did, that it was actually still there. It had gotten washed down because this was an area where there was water moving, like right here, there's a little creek. It's going to move sediments. Sediments are going to move down the creek. So we found approximately down from where this place had washed out, it had fanned much like a delta, and it had washed. Recovery rate figure was probably 80% of the mass that was missing, and that was the puzzle. Couldn't find the other 20. Assumed it was either brought further down into the groundwater, straight down, or just dispersed so much further down that it wasn't showing up. So carbon dating is not an absolute method. It is in the lab. When you're in the lab, it's this. But in real life, in the real world, stuff happens. Things move around. Things get contaminated. Tree ring dating, dendrochronology, although it is also not totally precise, it's much, I would actually consider it better than carbon-14. There's more to be gained from dendrochronology than carbon-14 dating. I have a little story to tell you about Neil deGrasse Tyson. So I was at a symposium and he started talking about dinosaurs, fossils, and carbon dating of the dinosaur fossils. Well, there is no dating of a dinosaur fossil if you believe well, it is BS that they died 65 million years ago, but their carbon-14 would not show up in that. So you find out which one you want on the carbon-14 dating. I'll do a video on dendrochronology later on. Like and subscribe. I'm out.